Aloha, beautiful souls. Welcome to another episode of A Better World with Adrienne. I'm so excited to drop in with you today for this transmission. And I am coming at you. I am channeling from my new space in Michigan. So I just moved over the weekend. I'm really in I'm in a digital nomadic existence right now. So I am really excited to bring this topic forward to you today because it's something I'm moving through right now. And I always find so much magic in my lived experiences that I want to share with all of you. And it's all obviously in the service of creating a world we're proud of, in the service of you living life as the real you, the most powerful version of you, and leaning into your Dharma path fully. Why? Because you're worthy. Why? Because it's your destiny. Why? Because if it's a desire in your heart, it's meant for you. And because it's an important part of a world we're proud of. So before we dive in, let's call upon the altar. I have a small altar today. I have beautiful cone flowers from my mother's garden here in Michigan. They are purple and they have black centers, and they really are the Lemurian frequencies that come out of the Aina, that come out of this land that I literally grew up dancing on, singing on, running on. So it not only is the generative nature of Mother Earth and the power of flowers, it is the inner child of me, of you, of all of us. I have my rose quartz crystal that's been guiding me for years. And this is representing unconditional love, unconditional power, and the healing nature that is available when we drop into the medicine of the heart. I have an unscented white candle burning, purifying the space, calling in all healed ancestors, guides, ascended masters, divine protection, the universal energies, all of this. And I have rose petals on the altar representing the divine feminine, representing beauty. That life gets to be beautiful, that life gets to be a piece of art. So that is on the altar today. And the altar is thank you, thank you, thank you to Spirit. It is us setting the stage for magic to occur. And the final part of our altar is when we connect our minds, bodies, and spirits with 3 deep breaths together. So wherever you are, wherever you're tuning in from, inhale through your nose. Exhale out the mouth. Shake out your arms, shake out your legs. Let anything you've been carrying from the day go, 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 go. Inhale through the nose. Exhale out the mouth. Feel a divine white light covering your whole body in blessings and nourishment. Inhale through the nose. This time, hold it at the top and set an intention for this podcast. Why are you listening? Why are you here? Are you here to be inspired, to grow, to learn, to connect, to change your state of mind, your state of being? Keep holding at the top. Choose a word, a color, a feeling, an intention that you are bringing to this space. Exhale out the mouth. If you closed your eyes, you can gently blink them open. And now the portal is open. We are here to start this transmission. So the topic and the title of this podcast is Navigate Transitions as Your Launchpad. And the reason that I chose this topic is because transitions are an innate part of life. There's always going to be transitions in your life that you are navigating, and being able to navigate them well in your power and making decisions during it all in your power is one of the most important parts of self leadership, is making decisions. Okay. And so every kind of transition is a result of a decision on some level. And so I am sharing this podcast because this is all things that I've been moving through in my own path lately. And I know they can help you. I know they can serve you no matter what kind of transition you're going through. Maybe you're going through a transition in your job. For me, I went through a transition in my geographical location suddenly, unexpectedly. And not just navigating them, but using them as your launch pad, okay? Using them as a launch pad to go forward on your trajectory of creation, of your spiritual path, of your growth, of your self-development, of your skills, all of these things. So, a few things about decisions before I get into the meat and potatoes of this episode. So, the first thing is just sharing that decisions, your ability to make decisions and swiftly move on them, is the most important part of your self leadership. And the way you're going to make decisions is based in, your unique blueprint, the timing in your life, your goals, the context of the collective, the context of the astrology. But the biggest thing about decisions that I want you to remember is that it's always up to you. It's always up to you, and making a decision, even if it's quote unquote the wrong decision, which I don't know if there is. I mean, that's a whole other podcast in itself, but making a decision is better. Making the wrong decision is better than making no decision, because you have momentum, you have direction, you have movement, and you're going to gain information when you make decisions. And if you learn, like, oh, hey, actually, I want to course correct, you can course correct. When you don't decide things, then you just are stagnant. That's when you loop. That's when you really create the experience of being stuck in your life. And so making decisions and swiftly moving on them is the most important process and thing you will do within yourself as a self-led, strong spiritual creator. Okay. And so, yes, can you have coaches that help you with finding clarity in your decisions? Absolutely. Can you have breath work facilitators, astrologers? I'm just sharing these examples because that's what I do, that can offer guidance, that can offer you pathways to your truth for your decisions. 100% yes. However, who is the authority on you at the end of the day? Who is the decider on you? Not a coach, not a healer, not a psychic. It's you, boo. This is the game of free will, and this is the game of the ultra responsibility that is required of you to create your dreams and to lead and steward New Earth, and you're important part of it. So, two things about decisions, okay? First thing, you will never have complete information. The thing about spiritual leaders and people on the spiritual path, and specifically I'm thinking of entrepreneurs, is, and you don't need to be an entrepreneur to be a spiritual leader and spiritual creator and make a positive impact in the world. However, I just notice a lot of people that I work with are entrepreneurs because the way they share their gifts many times does channel through a business. Now, is that always the case? No. I have clients that are full-time mothers and they have a huge Dharma path. I have clients who are teachers. They have a huge Dharma path. Okay. So the biggest thing though is that you're never going to have complete information. You will always be deciding with incomplete information. Actually, Jeff Bezos says, say what you want about Jeff Bezos, he knows how to build things. He knows how to build things. And for Amazon, I once heard that when they have 30% of the information, then they act on it. That's a ton of uncertainty with very, very little uncertainty. So it really is this. There's a quote that says, money loves speed, wealth loves time, poverty loves indecision. So when you are ruminating and not making decisions because you have incomplete information, you're actually choosing stagnation, you're choosing scarcity, you're choosing fear, it's really, at the end of the day, it's just fear, right? When you are not deciding, it's avoidance, which is a fancy way of saying fear. So I just want you to remember when you're making decisions, because transitions are results of decisions. Sometimes not made by you, let's say you know, for example, you get let go of a job or something and you're like in a major transition of finding a different job. Now, you didn't make that decision, but it is a result of a decision, right? And when that information lands in your lap, you have decisions to make, right? So you will never have complete information. You must swiftly decide based on incomplete information and adjust as you go while you're in motion. That's the name of the game, okay? And so the other thing I want to share about decisions is that decide literally means to cut off. Decide literally means to cut. So you sever some options. It's the process of you going from having all of these paths available to you, right? And choosing one path and instead of the others. You can't do all the paths. You can't do all the options. You could try to do all of them. You wouldn't do all of them well because you're just one person, right? Now, is there nuance to this with what your human design and your astrology and what your soul is saying? Yes. And I guarantee you, if you choose one path and commit to it fully, you're going to do 1,000 times better than if you half-ass 5 different things. Okay? It's just math. It's just the way energy works, right? We have finite energy, we have finite time on this planet, right? So it literally means to cut off. So the biggest part of your self-leadership is making decisions based on incomplete information. And when you make decisions, you know that you are choosing one path and cutting off the others. All right? Just decide. All right? Just do it, right? And then as you go down the path, and you're in momentum and you're in movement and you're like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm gathering data. This is working. This isn't working. This is working. This isn't working. Okay. And then you just keep going. All right. So now navigating transitions as your launch pad. Now I have 6 things I'm going to share with you that are going to support you in not only navigating major transitions in your life, which we all will, especially if you're in this community and you're consciously committed to your growth, you're consciously committed to your spiritual creation, your purpose, your destiny, all of that, you will have major transitions. And as we move forward in New Earth, things are going to change a lot. All right. Things are going to change. And a transition in itself is a process of change, And it's just, this is going to be useful for you no matter what, because you will have transitions no matter what in your life. And it's just really important to not quote unquote survive them, not quote unquote just like get through them. But I want you to have a blueprint, a guide for this is how to navigate it. And not only am I going to navigate it like a powerful boss that I am, but this is going to be a launch pad into my next level of greatness. Okay. So here are the 6 things. And I am going to take a drink of my water before we dive in. Okay. So the first thing, navigate transitions as your launch pad. The first thing is You're going to double down on health and habits. Double down on health and habits. So this is similar to the guidance I give my clients and anybody who asks me about, well, how do I maintain my habits when I'm traveling? How do I do this when I'm traveling, when I'm in movement? It's the same advice, but just a bigger footprint, because usually it's not just like a 2-week trip. A transition is like major, like, so I'm going to use my example of coming to Michigan really throughout this episode because it's alive for me, it's present for me, and there's so much juice and so much medicine to share through this example. So I and when we come back to the decision, like I was on the fence. I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to stay on Maui. I'm going to go to Michigan. You know, how long am I going to be in Michigan? Am I going to give up my apartment? Am I going to keep my apartment? I had all these decisions, and I just, based on incomplete information, I just said, okay, I'm going to Michigan. The timeline is 6 months. It could be shorter than that. It could be longer than that. I'm not going to keep my apartment in Maui. I'm just going to go, and I know that I have a place to run my business. I'm going to be with my family. I'm going to do, there's several reasons why I was called here right now. And yeah, I just made that decision, right? And so I knew doing that was going to cut off certain things. Like obviously, like I'm not on Maui right now, right? I'm not like frolicking at the ocean right now. And, it's this awareness that you're cutting off decisions, but it's temporary, right? It's temporary. And I don't know why, but the lighting on my computer just shifted. Okay, there we go. I fixed it. Okay, so double down on health and habits. It's the same as when you're on a trip. When it's so easy when there's a major transition to totally abandon your health, totally abandon the habits that support you in living life as the best you possible. There's things you already know, like drinking enough water, like exercise, like eating nutritious food, like showing up for your vision, like meditating, all of these things. The first thing that people abandon when anything gets rickety or hard or new is their health. That's the first thing people abandon because they're like, oh, I have all these things to do. I don't have time to work out. And it's just like that quote where people are like, if you say that you don't have time to meditate, you need to meditate double the time, because it just shows you how much you need it, right? And it's kind of like my whole thing on digital detox. So like so many people are like, "Oh, I wish I could do that. I wish I could unplug." And it's like the fact that you think you can't unplug is why you need it the most. Okay. So same thing here. The first thing to navigate a transition as your launch pad is you're going to double down on your health and your habits. So you just set that intention, like, yes, I'm doubling down. Some things for me, like I'm doubling down on my Mother Nature time. I'm doubling down on my workouts, my hydration, my meditation. Like it's so easy to abandon all of that stuff. And then you feel bad, and then your health goes down, and then you have brain fog. And then, once your physical health is off, then your ability to stay in your power and your ability to come at situations from love and not fear and not spiral out and not scroll and all of that stuff. It can spiral down really quickly when you abandon your health. So it's very important for you to double down on your health and your habits. So the habits that you have in place that are already working really, really well for you. So maybe it's sending emails for your business. Maybe it's doing client outreach. Maybe it's, I'm just thinking about the goals of some of the people in my space. Maybe it's Maybe it's, tapping into your intuitive gifts through dance, through breath work. Maybe it's that, you're studying something and you have a habit of, okay, I'm learning how to speak German and I've been doing it every day for 15 minutes in the evening. Do not delete that in your transition. Keep it. Okay. And that leads into my second point. Okay. The second thing to navigate transitions as your launch pad is I want you to ask yourself the question, what's not moving? What's not moving? So if you didn't know this about me, I used to teach asana. I used to teach yoga. And something that I would teach on a lot when I was sharing plank pose is it's the most simple pose, right? And it's the hardest because you're not moving and your whole body shakes and everything, people would love to do lunges, people would love to do abs, people would love to do all of these movement things, but then it's like the moment where I'm like, okay, hold still. If you want to focus on what's not moving, right? Because that's what creates strength. That's what holds you up. Plank pose is also called staff pose. And I love a staff because it's just like, boom, you have a staff and it guides you and it holds you while you walk. And then just like Gandalf, you can put it down the ground and be like, this is where I stake my claim. This is where I stake my claim. So I want you to ask the question, what's not moving in your transition? Because when you're in a state of transition, which is big change, it can be so easy to focus on what's changing, what's changing, what's changing, everything's changing. And we all know that the nervous system equates change to danger. So this leads to a nervous system response of fight or flight. And when you are in fight or flight, not only does it feel bad, you can't make good decisions from that space because you're just worried about staying alive. That's at a cellular level. And that's what your nervous system is controlling in your decisions. So you can't make long-term decisions for your greatest good, the greatest good of your goals, your life, your mission, your purpose. So I really want you to ask the question, what's not moving, and focus on that. So for me, with my transition right now, I just got here 2 days ago. I wouldn't say I'm super jet lagged because I have a system, of course. I have a system for everything. I have a system for jet lag, and I basically just snap myself into a new time zone, and I just decide this is what we're doing now. And I really want you to focus on what's not moving. What's not moving. So I feel a lot of transition around me. I'm around my family for the first time in a year. My physical location has changed, like even setting up my workspace to record this podcast. It's all different. It's all new. And I was like, okay, if I want to stay fully rooted, fully grounded, what's not moving? What's not moving? Well, my business isn't moving. My clients aren't moving. Like my relationship with myself isn't moving. My joy isn't moving. My health, obviously, because I'm doubling down on that even more. I actually decided that July is the healthiest month of my life. That's what I decided. So really focus on what's not moving as your sources of strength. Okay. Just like that plank pose, it's like, what's not moving? People always focus on what's in moving. And then when you even think about it from a visual standpoint, if you're watching something that's not moving, it's like this constant chase energy. It's this constant, you got to keep track of it. You gotta clock it. It's very distracted, right? So it's this idea of there can be all of this change swirling around me. And then you're like, okay, what's not moving? My connection with my soul, my connection with my gifts, my values, my just like you're going to know how it applies for your example of what your transition is, but really ask yourself what's not moving. And then you're going to focus on that as a source of strength to not be in distraction, to not be in this like frantic energy during a transition. And this is how you make it a launch pad. Okay. Third thing is just the awareness that navigations are processes of change. It's a process, right? It's not like, oh, boom, I decided this thing and I'm in this transition and then the next day it's done. It's like, no, it's a transition. It's a transition and it takes time and it takes integration and calibration. You know, I always say that our 3D reality is the result of previous thoughts, actions, and states of our nervous system, right? So it's a process. There's a lag in the 3D. And so, oh, a hummingbird just flew by. Those are so magical. So I just want you to know, and it's flying around and giving nectar to all the little flowers. So this episode is nectar for you to pour on all the flowers of your life. That's what I'm getting from the hummingbird for you and for all of us. I love that. That's so amazing. So, and it's a process of change, right? Be gentle with yourself in the process. Be gentle with yourself in the process, especially if it's a really big transition. Like I was thinking to myself on the plane when I was on my way to Michigan and I was crying and it was a lot for me. Like I was super emotional leaving Maui. I think I would be emotional leaving Maui no matter what. If unless it was like for a week or like a weekend or something like that. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like why am I so emotional? Why is this such a big deal? Like yada yada yada. And I just came back to like be gentle with yourself. Like you literally are moving to Michigan unexpectedly and it's not like a short trip, you know, it's not like a weekend trip to another island. It's not like a 3-hour road trip. It's like, yo, you had a 7-hour flight and then a 5-hour flight with layovers. It's like, yeah, you're literally like going across the world to enter a whole new phase and a whole new chapter. And it was very emotional. And so I just let myself like, hey, like be gentle with yourself. Be gentle with yourself, love yourself more. Like there's a lot changing and that's amazing and that's magical. And you know, what a gift. And just to hold yourself in that tenderness and that it is a process of change. And then you're going to have, because you know it's a process, you're going to have a plan and show up to the plan. If you have been in my work, if you are in my signature program, 3D Moves, which if you're not, I'm going to link it in the show notes. And then podcast listeners do get 20% off. That is something only podcast listeners get because I love you guys and you guys are the most committed people in my community. You just are the best. You're the OGs and you get rewarded for that. So this is the how to hold your why. You can go check it out in the show notes. It's literally, I teach holy habits. I teach divine design. It's the how to hold your why. It's where spirit meets strategy. We code it in with breath work so you feel safe. It's like all the people that want to know the how-to steps. This is it. Okay. For the 3D, like how do I actually make my vision real? So I say something in there, plan your work, work your plan. If you don't have a plan for your transition, you're gonna struggle. You're gonna struggle. You're gonna be wasting your energy. You're gonna be unhappy. You're gonna be stressed. There's gonna be a bunch of extra things that you're adding extra bullshit basically that you don't need to put on your plate energetically, emotionally, physically, mentally, and in your nervous system. Okay. So you're going to have a plan and show up to it. This is going to reduce your decision fatigue. So something that happens in transitions, because there's so much new, like I'm thinking about when I moved to Maui, I had no idea the amount of new decisions I would be making and the amount of decision fatigue I was having. It was like, first of all, just like going somewhere brand new. It's like new grocery stores, new, like, I don't know, the roads, all of these things. And then you go to basically everything on Maui is like 10 years behind in terms of convenience, in terms of automation. I literally went to the library to print things off. Like and you paid for the printer in quarters. It was like so different. And so you can have a lot of decision fatigue, and that's things that you can't control, right? Like there are things outside you that you cannot control, but you can control a lot, and you must have a plan and show up to the plan. All right. So you're not going to be able to control everything, but there is a lot you can plan. And you can also have a plan for when things don't go as planned. It's like, okay, when something comes up in my path that is unexpected, that's a new decision, that's something I didn't anticipate, what's my plan for moving through it? Okay. And then you just show up to the plan. That's it. Have a plan and show up to it. That's it, boo. And if you can do that and be gentle with yourself, you're going to navigate the process of change so much easier and use it as a launch pad. Okay, now the last three things are more about choosing it as a launch pad and navigating it as your launch pad. Okay, so the first three things, just to recap: double down on health and habits, ask the question, what's not moving? And then the third thing was, it's a process of change. Be gentle with yourself and have a plan and show up to it. Okay. Fourth thing is, I want you to identify key manifestations, outcomes, and results that you are claiming and creating in this transition. So all of these decisions and all the transitions in our life have blessings attached to them, right? They have blessings. If you made a decision that has this transition in it, you made it for a reason. And that likely is because of a certain manifestation, a certain outcome, a certain result in your life that you are committed to. And this is the path you chose for that commitment. So the biggest thing I want you to do is you're going to identify, what am I creating in this transition? What am I creating in this transition? So I'm just thinking of another major transition I went through was when I broke up with my previous partner that I thought I was going to marry. I was in a major state of transition. I didn't have a home. I was couch surfing. I was preparing for the Navy audition that I actually won. And I was just like, I was so in it. And that was something I chose, right? Like I chose to break up with him. I chose to move out, all of these things. And it was a major, major transition. And I remember saying to myself, my key things, I was like, I am going to be the healthiest I've ever been. That's something I always do when there's a big transition. I just really, really, really focus on health because it automatically makes everything better, more clear, and you just feel amazing. So my transition right now, what my big outcomes and results are, I mean, one of them is complete time and location freedom in my business. And what does that look like? So like being able to travel anywhere at any time and no longer trading time for money. And I have a few really specific results that I'm going for in terms of like the way that I want to serve my amazing clients and my community like you, and how that gets to be expressed. I have very specific things I want to create with my family. I have very specific manifestations, results, and outcomes for this transition and why I chose it and all of these things. So the biggest thing I want to give you for guidance in this is don't choose more than 3. If you choose less than 3, you're not going full out. you're not going as big as you can, and you're not going to reach your full potential because you're kind of like, meh, you're not really fully doing it. Don't choose more than 3 because you won't be able to do all of them well. So choose 3, no more than 3, I'd say. Don't choose just one. I think you can have at least 2 or 3 specific manifestations, outcomes, and results that you are focusing on during this transition. Okay. And then to borrow from Jim Collins, he wrote From Good to Great. He also wrote a bunch of different stuff. He's known for the flywheel effect. You can Google him. He's very well known, and I highly recommend his work. BHAG is an acronym that he came up with, and it stands for Big, Hairy, Audacious Goals. Big, hairy, audacious goals. So these are the things you want to be setting in your transition. Because the beauty of transition is that it automatically means that there's uncertainty. And uncertainty is the unknown. And the unknown is the place where miracles and dreams and possibilities and new lies. That's where it's not the comfort zone. It's outside the comfort zone. It's like anything's possible. And so really choose a big manifestation, choose a big goal. Like, what am I going to create with this transition as the fertile soil? Okay. And then just make sure it's measurable. Make sure it's measurable. One of the biggest blocks and challenges people have with their quote unquote goals or manifestations is they don't even know how they're going to know if they did it because they don't measure. So is it a monthly income goal? Is it a certain amount of clients? Is it, oh, I'm going to weigh this much on the scale. I'm going to be doing my workouts this many times per week. Like, I'm going to drop a podcast once a week. I'm going to, maybe you want to learn a new skill. You're like, okay, I'm going to take surf lessons twice a week, and in 6 months time, I'm going to be surfing on my own at least once a week. Like, but make it measurable. If you don't measure it, you will never know if you actually did it. And this is a low-key way that people avoid responsibility. People are like, yeah, I want to be healthier. Yeah, I want to work out more. Yeah, I'm going to make more money. I want to change more lives. But it's like, you got to be specific. Be specific. Dare to be specific, okay? And see what happens. Okay, the 5th thing, which seems self-explanatory, but what's common sense is not always common practice. So the 5th thing, decide that it's a launch pad and choose it as a pattern interrupt. So this is where you're really going to decide, like, hey, this major transition is not just something I'm going to move through, not just something I'm going to, survive. I'm going to thrive. This is my launch pad into the next major portal of greatness in my life. My next up level. Like, when you think about a launch pad, it's a launch pad for a rocket, and you're about to blast off into outer space. You're out to be like ascended, right? This is something you decide in advance. You're like, this major transition is not just a thing I'm going to make it through and survive. This is my launch pad. Why? Because I decide to. Okay. Any major transition is a perfect time to not just decide you're on a launch pad and a rocket ship into your next layer of your destiny, your Dharma path, but it's a perfect time for a pattern interrupt and an upgrade of so many different things in your life. Why? Because so much is already brand new. So when you, like, for me, for example, like, moving physical location and changing your environment is one of the ways that people actually change habits, even when they're not in transition, right? They're like, oh, you want to change your habits. You gotta change your environment. You gotta change this. You gotta change that. Well, when you're already in such a flux of change, it's a perfect time to change habits. So, have you had negative habits holding you back? And can you let this transition be the interruption for them? So for me, a few things that I decided to pattern interrupt when I came to Michigan were I had noticed, and this is also why I'm leading a digital detox in August 2024, shameless plug. I had noticed that my relationship and my boundaries with social media had gotten a little bit wobbly and a little bit loose. And I didn't like that. And I said, okay, when I moved to Michigan, it's automatic shift, automatic changing the boundaries, automatic upgrade. And I said, when my feet touch that ground at Michigan, this current pattern is over. I'm choosing to interrupt that. And how have I followed through? Obviously with breath work, discipline, having systems, all of that, which is something I'm teaching and guiding everyone in the digital detox reset. So if you're interested, it's 5 people only because it's going to be a really, really deep, lasting change. It's 30 days. We have live calls. We have daily Voxer coaching, and connection is going to be epic. But that's something, so you can go to the link in the show notes and sign up if this is you, or email me with questions. So I decided I'm going to pattern interrupt that and upgrade that. I also decided, so on Maui, which was completely different than my life in Chicago, there is a lot of driving. There is so much driving on that island because things are so spread out. Like, to get to Whole Foods was like 25 to 30-minute drive. To get to the nearest beach is 25 minutes. So it'd be like, when I was in Chicago, I would ride my bike to do my morning beach. And it was like very, very like, I was moving a lot more, and it's not that I didn't move on Maui, and I did a bunch of hikes. I was like hiking mountains, but just like my morning walking was different because I wasn't in a city. It wasn't like I was walking to the store or walking to go get coffee or walking to do this or taking the train. It was very driving focused. And so I was like, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a 3-mile walk in the morning. I'm going to do a 3-mile walk in the evening. And I'm going to pattern interrupt that, like, overly focus on driving and really get into the driver's seat. Oh, pun intended, of that movement outside of a workout, right? Because obviously I'm still keeping my workouts, I'm keeping my strength training, but I decided, I was like, I just want to walk more. And the other thing about Maui is after 9 a.m. in the summer, and especially like where I was living in Kula, the sun is so hot that if I were to go on a walk during the middle of the day, first of all, I would roast. Second of all, my skin would burn and I would need to shower again before doing anything for my clients and my creation. And so I was like, I am really going to get into like morning and evening walks. Like that is going to be such a vibe. That's going to be such a pattern interrupt and an upgrade. And guess what? I've been doing it and I've been loving it, and just like soaking in the, where I'm at is like, I'm splitting my time between Southwest Michigan, where I grew up, and our cottage in Northern Michigan. And it's all very like pine trees and forest and just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful rolling hills and farmland and flowers, and amazing. But it's very temperate though. It's very hot, I'd say, in the afternoons, but like it doesn't have that big Hawaii, just like hot, hot, hot sun. So I was like, ooh, I'm going to use this as a pattern interrupt. So I really want you to think about the transition that you've been thinking about during this whole episode and really get clear on, okay, what pattern interrupt am I choosing, and how is it going to be a launch pad? How is it going to be a launch pad? And this is actually directly tied to my manifestations and outcomes and results that I'm creating in this launch pad, because when I go on walks, I get ideas. When I go on walks, I get downloads. And so my walks they're tied into all of that because they not only are opportunities for me and my spiritual path and my growth and my business goals, but I'm depending on the mood and the day, like I'm going to invite family to go on the walks with me. And a lot of this time it's very important that I'm here from a family lens. So yeah, what kind of patterns are you going to interrupt and improve and upgrade during this transition? That's the number 5. And then number 6, the last thing for navigating transitions as your launch pad is I want you to embrace and expand your bandwidth for uncertainty as possibility. So one of the biggest things that I notice about myself and other successful spiritual creators, spiritual leaders, people who are really, really, really living their Dharma path and just going for it. It's this blend of spirituality and ambition, which I've come to realize is incredibly rare. It's incredibly rare. There's a lot of people that are ambitious. They don't have the soul, they don't have the heart, they don't have the spiritual bedrock, and it leads them astray in all kinds of ways. And then there's a bunch of spiritual people who believe ambition is bad, just like they believe money is bad. And that doesn't get you anywhere either, because then you're in the broke healer paradigm. Then you're in victimhood. You're actually not contributing. You're connected, but you're not contributing. So I really want you to lean into this superpower and this very, very specific, rare quality of ambitious spirituality in terms of uncertainty. Because spiritual and ambitious people, which are New Earth leaders, which is you if you're listening to this podcast, you must be able to hold must have a wider bandwidth for uncertainty than certainly the status quo, than certainly the average Joe, and most people, including other spiritual people or other ambitious people. Like, you must expand your bandwidth for uncertainty, because that's what a transition is. It's a time of change. What is change? Change is uncertainty. And so from a nervous system level, remember, your nervous system is going to equate change with being unsafe. And that's why people don't follow through on things. That's why people don't live their destiny. That's why people don't go for things, because they allow that to control their life rather than regulate, heal, reset, recalibrate their nervous system. This is why breath work is so powerful. And you best believe I'm doing breath work during this transition. And I will say I've had more resistance to doing breath work during this transition than I have had in a really long time. Why? Because it's bringing me to my edges in terms of uncertainty, in terms of feelings, in terms of all of these things. So I want you to shift your perception of uncertainty to possibility. It's anything is possible. And by the way, certainty, I mean, you can be certain that you're worthy. You can be certain that you're loved. You can be certain that your dreams are on the way, that everything's working out for you, through you. You can be certain that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, in terms of your goals and your manifestations and your dreams. However, there's so much uncertainty in the how, in the timing, in the exact expression, what's it going to look like. But here's the thing, is that uncertainty just means possibility, okay? If you're not in uncertainty, if you're not in the unknown, you are likely recreating the past just to create certainty, because that quote unquote is deemed safe by your nervous system. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to change your relationship with uncertainty and embrace and expand your bandwidth for that, because that's the only way you're going to make this a launch pad. Otherwise, you're going to be struggling, spiraling down, spiraling out. Like, I want you to have such a firm foundation and have a launch pad through your transitions that you look on the other side and you're like, wow, this was actually a catalyst for like the best era of my life. This was actually a catalyst for my deepest soul growth, my quickest expansion, all of these manifestations, these creations, like, wow, this was it. And I want you to choose a theme song and a mantra. I want you to choose a theme song because this is going to, so Joe Dispenza says, when neurons fire together, they wire together. And so this is just another way of you feeling emotions and feeling new feelings and doing it all in your body in relation to what you're creating. This is a manifestation, I guess. I wouldn't call it a hack. It's just something that I do in terms of manifesting through the body. Is choose a theme song and you're just going to imagine and you're just going to dance and you're like, okay, this is my, what are you creating in this launch pad? And you're just going to imagine yourself like a montage in a movie. Like, imagine yourself moving through all of it. And then you see the emails coming through and then you bump into your soulmate and then you dance and play and you have fun the whole entire time and everything works out so much quicker and so more magical and so much more beautiful than you ever thought possible. And you see yourself going through this transition. Okay. And then you're going to make a mantra. You're going to make a mantra, right? And then you're going to say this mantra out loud during your song. That's it. That's it. So this is how to navigate transitions as your launch pad. I really, really trust and have the big, strong intention. I hope this helped you. I hope this served you. If it did, please write a review. If you are a listener of the podcast and you have not written a review yet, it's a really easy, simple way. You can take 30 seconds to support the podcast. It really, really helps me. And yeah, it's just a really easy, simple way to give back if you are receiving from this channel, right? This free channel. You can, if you are interested in this work, I would love to work with you. I'm welcoming new one-on-one clients, and I have single sessions available maybe when you're listening to this. Just click the link and see. I'm adjusting my availability as things unfold. If you want me as your coach, your healer, your guide, if you want to implement things like this for yourself in your day-to-day life to create change, lasting change, to create dreams, to, live your purpose, astrology, breathwork, high performance coaching, all of the things, apply for one-on-one mentorship through the link in the show notes. I am welcoming amazing, soul-aligned, just leaders and beautiful people who are ready for this high touch luxury transformation. It's not for everyone. It's for you if you're fully committed and you want the creme de la creme of support and empowerment and guidance. So the other thing is I'm leading my digital detox starting August 1st. So if you really resonate with that and you're like, oh my gosh, I actually scroll a lot, like way too much. And I actually know that I'm not creating dreams because I don't have command of my mind. I'm addicted to my phone. I'm always checking notifications. I'm always checking Instagram. I'm always on a screen. I don't feel present. I feel anxious. I'm not doing the things I know I'm meant to be doing. All my goals, like, it's a perfect time, especially if you're in a state of transition, to do a total reset of your relationship with technology. So this is a 30-day transformation. It's with you and 4 other amazing people that I'm guiding. We are going to do breath work. I'm going to be leading you through at least a week-long digital detox, which is going to include, it just depends on your life. Like, obviously, if you have a job where you're required to be on email, like, I'm not going to be like, take a week off work. However, I am going to be like, you only do email for work and that's it. Like, you got a hard line. If you want the amazing results, you got to have full commitment. There's no half-assing a digital detox. Doesn't work. It doesn't work. That moderation does not work. You either do it or you don't. So if you're like, wow, that like scares me, but also I really, really need this is for you. Go to the show notes and sign up. I can't wait to share this with you. Like it's been an integral part of my life since 2019 and I wouldn't trade it for the world. People ask me, how do you do, you're posting 5 days a week? How have you done almost, 5 day a week emails to your email list? How have you done a newsletter? How have you done a podcast? All of this consistently for year after year after year after year after year. Oh, it's digital detox and holy habits, baby, and breath work. So go to the link in the show notes, sign up if this is you. If you have any questions and you want to connect, if you're not sure about what's correct for you, but you want to work with me, just email me and let's connect about it. And yeah, this is navigating transitions as your launchpad. You did not come here to just survive through a transition. You did not come here to just, barely make it. You came here to thrive. And I don't care what you're moving through, what kind of transition you're moving through. I really feel a lot of us are moving through transition right now at the time of this recording. I'm recording this on the day that Mars and Uranus are conjunct in Taurus. It's a very volatile, aggressive, shocking astrology. And so there could be a lot of sudden change. Uranus rules sudden change. And so I really hope this served you and gave you a framework for like, yes, I'm in a transition and I'm going to navigate this transition as my launch pad. So I love you. I can't wait to hear how this landed. If you want to work together, you know exactly what to do. All the links are in the show notes. Go out there, be an amazing you. Choose to navigate your transitions as a launch pad. Remember that you're a boss. Remember that you're a light. Remember that you're soft. Remember that you're strong. Remember that you're beautiful just as you are right here, right now, today. And you're right on time. And that free will is always a thing. You always have the free will to make a different choice, to choose differently, to create a different result in your life that aligns with your soul and your values and your commitments. Go out there and make a stranger smile because it charges the whole field. Be the change, be the light, and I will see you next time on A Better World with Adrienne.